Sri Sachidananda Sadguru Sainath Maharaj Ki Jai. Sri Sai SATCHARITRA, an Insight, Episode 180. My humble prostrations at the lotus feet of our Sadguru Sai. By the divine grace of Sai, an attempt has been made to translate the gist of the divine discourse of Sri Ramanathan brother telecasted in Sai TV. This is purely done to share the glory of Sai and his divine teachings with more insight to the aspirants. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnuhu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahmam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Devotees, we have been heeding to the glory of the holy Manasarovar lake and the Kailash hill in connection with the Leela of Vijayanand Swami. Srimad Bhagavata Puranam describes about Pancha Sarovaram and glorifies the 5 most significant and sacred lakes. Of these, Manasarovar holds the first position. The remaining 4 water bodies are Bindu Sarovar, Narayan Sarovar, Pampa Sarovar and Pushkar Sarovar. It is believed that if one would drink the sacred water of the Manasarovar lake once in their lifetime, then the sins of the past 100 births will be annihilated. Moreover, that person after his death is sure to reach the abode of Lord Shiva, that is, the Kailash, and will get the greatest blessings to be in the presence of the Kailashanadar. This is termed as Salokya Mukti, that is, reaching the loka of the deity worshipped. Such is the benefit of having a sip of this sacred water of the Manasarovar lake. This lake is of very high elevation. It is about 15,060 feet above sea level with a circumference round of about 88 kilometers with a depth of 90 meters and has a surface area of 320 kilometers square. This is the highest freshwater lakes in Asia with relatively a high elevation on the lake-studded Tibetan plateau. The lakes in this Tibetan plateau are mostly saline, but the Manasarovar is unique and has crystal clear fresh water. Very close to this lake is Lake Rakshasthal, which is a saltwater lake. Though both are at a very high elevation above the sea level, the nature of the water body is different. Water creatures do not survive in other lakes, but they are found in plenty in Manasarovar. There is also another interesting fact about the swans that live in this water body. Usually, the noise made by them sound like quack quack, but the sounds made by the swans in Manasarovar lake will reverberate as Uma Uma, which is the other name of goddess Parvati. To compare Lake Manasarovar and Lake Rakshasthal, Manasarovar is almost round in shape and has clear fresh water, whereas Rakshasthal is a saline lake not as big as Manasarovar and does not have a proper shape. Devotees might wonder what is the need to know about Lake Rakshasthal. Let me tell you now. The term Rakshas means demon and Dal denotes water body. So, Rakshasthal means the lake or pond that belongs to the demon. The demon that created this was none other than the demon king Ravanan. Hence, this is also known as Ravan Dal. Ravanan performed the most difficult austerities to reap the greatest boons from Lord Shiva. Ravana was a 10-headed demon. He made this lake in order to sit on the shores and perform his puja rituals. Every day he would sit on the banks of it and performed yajna. During the yajna, to please Lord Shiva, each day he would chop off his one head and offer it in the yajna as ahuti. He continued in the same manner for 9 days and offered 9 of his heads in the yajna. On the 10th day, he was prepared to chop off his 10th and the last head and offer it in the yajna. At that moment, Lord Shiva appeared in front of him and as a recognition of his devotion granted the boons that he had asked for. This Mahayagna was conducted at the banks of the river Rakshasthal. Hence, it is believed that the vibration in this region is full of negativity. The water is also saline and more like a drainage basin and does not allow any water flow outside the basin. A channel connects the Manasarovar and Rakshasthal and that is known as Ganga Chu. It runs only to a distance of 3.5 kilometers. The overflowing pure water from the Manasarovar lake pours into the Ganga Chu channel. Manasarovar is elevated than Rakshasthal. This Ganga Chu channel flows downwards and gets drained into Rakshasthal. It is believed that the rishis have created this Ganga Chu channel to suppress and keep the negative energy of Rakshasthal under control, as the overflowing water of the pure and the most sacred Manasarovar lake water will also get drained into it. So, when Swami Vijayanand looked at the map that was in the possession of the Japanese pilgrim, he was fascinated to see the Manasarovar lake in the east and the Rakshasthal neighboring it. Manasarovar has a good shape, whereas Rakshasthal has an irregular shape, but the tail of it will look like a moon, and as both are in proximity, they would look like two eyes. This captivating picture kindled his interest more and was very much keen to go on a pilgrimage to Manasarovar without further delay. This Mount Kailash is considered as a sacred place for Hindus, Buddhists born in Tibet, and Jains. Buddhists believe that Lord Buddha sat on the shores of the sacred Manasarovar in meditation, and they also associate the lake as the mother principle, with Kailash as the father principle. A traditional 32-mile circuit around the mountain called Kora is believed to be particularly holy walk. In case of Jains, Rishabhatirthankara is the first religious master of the Jains, and he attained Mahanirvana at this region. Hence, his son Bharat had built a palace adorned with precious gems on the Ashtapad mountain located in the serene Himalayas. To recall this, Rishabhatirthankara is none other than the Rishabhadeva and Bharat that we discussed in the stories of Srimad Bhagavatam. According to Bond religion, when Tonpa Shenrab, the founder of the Bond religion, visited Tibet for the first time, he bathed in the Manasarovar lake. Hence, this is considered as the holy place for them too. Thus, Manasarovar is considered as a holy place for many other religious people as well. So, Vijayanand Swamiji also decided to go on a pilgrimage to Manasarovar. On his way, he heard the glory of Sri Sai Maharaj and came to Shirdi for darshan. The most unanticipated events took place for him here. At Shirdi, he happened to see Somadev Swamiji and his devotees, as they have also come for Sri Sai Maharaj's darshan. Somadev Swamiji was from Haridwar. In the 49th chapter of Sri Sai SATCHARITRA, we will be listening to the Leelas experienced by Somadev Swamiji. Now, Vijayanand Swamiji became more excited to meet Somadev Swamiji as he was from Haridwar and inquired him to give more details about the pilgrimage to Manasarovar. Somadev Swamiji said, "It is nearly 500 miles above the altitude of Gangotri, and that is the origin of the holy river Ganga. This long distance can be reached trekking by foot. The path is very tedious. The weather is very unpredictable, as there will be frequent rain or snowfall. Landslides are very common. Beyond all this, the dialect of the people change every 100 miles and they need to trek at least 500 miles. So, after each 100 mile, they will have to encounter people speaking different languages. Hence, communication will be a challenge. One has to cross the borders of Bhutan to reach this holy abode of the Lord, and the Bhutanists suspect the pilgrims and trouble them. Hence, it becomes a real challenge for the devotees. There is a popular saying, "Char char futon ki pani, aat futon ki vani," which means the water tendency changes every 4 foot and the dialect of the people will vary every 8 foot. This saying expresses the diversification of languages in our country. So, Somadev Swamiji told Vijayanand Swami that one has to surpass all these difficulties to reach the holy Manasarovar. These discussions were taking place in Shirdi at the Vada. Vijayanand Swamiji was upset listening to the feedbacks from Somadev Swamiji. His mind was contemplating on the decision of proceeding the holy pilgrimage to the Himalayas. He is yet to have darshan of Sri Sai Maharaj, but he is already in the verge of dropping the idea of going to Manasarovar lake. At this juncture, both the Swamijis went to the darshan of Sri Sai Baba. It was morning and Dwaraka was completely packed with devotees. From a distance, Vijayanand Swami glimpsed at Sri Sai Maharaj, and in no time his mind became calm, his senses were satisfied, and he experienced joy. Devotees were standing in queue and one by one climbed the stairs of Dwaraka, bowed at the holy feet of Sri Sai Baba. Now it was Vijayanand Swamiji's turn. He climbed the steps, and the moment he touched the lotus feet of Sri Sai Maharaj, he was in horripilation. He experienced eternal peace. At that very moment, Sri Sai Maharaj became very furious. His eyes turned red and looked very scary. He screamed out loud, "Slam and chase this sannyasi away. He is of no use." The sannyasi, dressed in orange robe, was shocked to see this reaction of Sri Sai Maharaj, began to ponder the reason for the wrath of Sri Sai Baba upon him. Why is he calling me as a useless sannyasi and getting mad at me? What was my mistake? He felt dejected and slowly walked down the stairs of Dwaraka. He went and sat in a corner of the Sabha Mandap and was quietly observing all the incidences that took place in Sri Sai Baba's darbar. Surprisingly, in a short while, the anger of Sri Sai Baba subsided and he became very calm. Vijayanand Swami was unable to comprehend the reason behind Sri Sai Maharaj's reaction upon him. This being his first visit, he is totally new to Sri Sai Maharaj's sudden change in the conduct. Vijayanand Swami was by nature a good and pure-hearted sannyasi. Though Sri Sai Baba expressed his displeasure upon him, he did not get annoyed, rather sat quietly and watched the happenings with a devoted mind. He saw some devotees washing the holy feet of Sri Sai Maharaj and collecting the consecrated water. Few of them drank it, while some sprinkled it on their heads. Then one of them distributed the sacred water to all those present there. Few brought flowers and did archana to Sri Sai Maharaj. Some of them got fruits and offered them. Devotees also smeared sandal paste to the holy feet of Sri Sai Baba. Few were massaging his back. Couple of them pressed his legs. So many of them were permitted by Sri Sai Baba to do their loving service to him, whereas he was welcomed with harsh words, thought Vijayanand Swamiji. The reason behind Sri Sai Baba's anger was Sri Sai Maharaj wanted us to think deeply before we start any work. He doesn't like us to take up any venture without thinking and then withdraw from it and after starting it. This reverberates the thoughts of Thiruvalluvar as expounded in Tirukkural. Enni thuniga karumam துணிந்த பின் எண்ணுவம் என்பது இழுக்கு. The couplet says, consider and then undertake a matter. After having undertaken it, to say we will consider is folly. If this rule must be followed strictly for worldly matters, then needless to say the degree of caution involved prior to dealing spiritual matters. The basic qualification for a sannyasi is steadfast determination. Vijayanand Swami has taken up sannyas and he is expected to have a firm mind, whereas now as soon as he listened to the facts given by Somdev Swamiji without being rigid in his decision about Kailash Yatra, he immediately gave up his resolution to go on pilgrimage to Manasarovar. A sannyasi should not have wavering mind, and that is not an attribute of a sannyasi. Hence, Sri Sai Maharaj didn't like this mindset of Vijayanand Swami. Thus, he got annoyed and screamed out, "Chase this sannyasi away. He is useless." The main reason for Sri Sai Maharaj to use the term useless is to remark that Vijayanand Swami didn't adopt the core principle of a mendicant, that is renunciation. So, what is the use of the mendicant that cannot even adhere to the principles of the dharma that he is following? So, Vijayanand Swami was seated in the Sabha Mandap with a calm and composed mind that was as pure as a crystal. He must have had a store of good merits from the past that he got the blessing to sit in Shirdi without any commotion in mind. His mind was at peace and he wanted to be in the presence of Sri Sai Baba. He was quietly watching the darbar of Sri Sai Maharaj and developed loving devotion for Sri Sai Baba. On the second day of his stay in Shirdi, he received a letter from Chennai, and it read, his mother residing in a village nearby Chennai is bedridden. This shocking news made him restless and his heart began to palpitate. He wanted to immediately go back to Chennai and see his mother. As we know that none can go out of Shirdi without Sri Sai Maharaj's consent. So he went to meet Sri Sai Baba with this letter in his hand to seek permission to leave from Chennai. He beseeched Sri Sai Baba thus, my mother is made to lie on the ground. She is extremely sick. Her life is at stake, and she is holding her breath for the sake of seeing me. Hence, Baba, I plead you to permit me to leave. The moment my mother will see me, she might become all right. Otherwise, even if she must leave this earth, she will leave in my presence, and that would give her solace. Did Sri Sai Maharaj permit him to leave? What sermons were given by Sri Sai Baba to Vijayanand Swamiji? The incidences that took place at this juncture affirms that Sri Sai Maharaj is omniscient and all-pervasive. We shall listen to those captivating Leelas in the coming episode. Bow to Sri Sai. Peace be to all. Om Sai Ram.